Philadelphia. They have a conference every year. They go off into the woods for about 3 days and talk about how they can help our culture, our world spiritually evolve. So I gave my presentation on how the money works as organized crime, describing what is arguably the biggest, most profitable industry in the United States today. And towards the end, we were discussing the fact that the Department of Justice estimates that the United States is the leader in laundering organized crime profits of about $500 billion to $1 trillion a year. So I asked the audience, what would happen if we stopped being the worldwide leader in laundering $500 billion to $1 trillion a year? And they said, well, you know, if we stopped, our mutual funds would go down in price, the stock market would crash. I said, well, what else would happen? So they said, well, you know, we might have trouble financing the government deficit because, in fact, the people who control 50 years of accumulated profits, that's a lot of capital that we need to finance our deficit. So I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's pretend there's a big red button right up here on the lectern right in front of me. And if you push that button, you can stop all organized crime in America, and you can stop America laundering $500 billion to $1 trillion of organized crime profits every year. Who here will push the button? And out of 100 people, only one person would push the button. And I said, okay, so what you're saying is you want a whole armada of people to sell drugs to your children and grandchildren to keep your mutual funds up and your government checks coming. And they said, yes, that's right. Now, there are many ways to change that. There are many ways to re-engineer our financial system and our resources so that the Solari Index and the Dow Jones can be friends. So that when we get the Solari Index to go up by making sure our neighborhoods are safe for children, the real estate can go up in value, the small businesses go up in value. There are many ways to make the Solari Index and the Dow Jones friends. But before we can do that, before we can have that conversation, we have to face what's happening. We have to face that we are addicted to drug profits, because if we can't face it, God can't fix it.
Okay. This is a copy of the cover sheet of the report. It's on the World Wide Web. If you want to go search for it, you can just look for the report on correspondent banking. Okay, and that's a copy of the report. It's an incredible read. What they don't tell you in there, of course, is that the U.S. economy is dependent upon that drug money, among other things. Now let's go a little further. Gotta love this. If this gentleman down here in the black jacket walks into a bank with a deposit of $10,001, does everybody understand that the bank has to fill out a report and send it to the U.S. Treasury indicating that he might be a money launderer? But did you happen to know that under U.S. laws, there are certain classes of business that are exempt from making currency transaction reports? Included in those are a bank, obviously, a department or agency of the U.S. government. CIA does not have to fill out currency transaction reports. An entity established under the laws of any state, But you come down to this one. A listed entity other than a bank whose common or analogous equity interests are listed on the New York Stock Exchange or American Stock Exchange, or designated as a NASDAQ national market security. If you have a company that trades on Wall Street, you can launder all the money you want to. It's legal. Gee. Now I'm just laying a little groundwork here for you before we get to September 11th. We're getting there. Just last year, a group of companies were called in to meet with Janet Reno, who's not probably the most ethical person that ever lived, and Secretary of State Deputy Treasury Secretary Stuart Eisenstadt. And these companies, Hewlett-Packard, Ford, Sony, General Motors, Whirlpool, General Electric, and Philip Morris, were called in to the Department of Justice for the amount of drug money they were laundering. Basically, the message was, you guys cool it. Okay? It's getting like out of hand. Now, let me ask you a question. This gentleman right here, what's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin. Kevin is a drug lord. Kevin is the is the king of all drugs in South America. Okay? All right. And let's say this young lady right down here with the glasses. What's your name? Rhonda. Rhonda is the executive vice president of General Motors for the Southern Hemisphere, or South America. Okay? Kevin, you call up Rhonda one day and you say, I'd like 100 Chevy Suburbans, armor-plated, custom-built, at $30,000 each, and I'll pay cash. Rhonda, what are you going to say to that offer? All right. All right. Now, Kevin's got money that he can't spend because it's drug money. But now he's got 100 Chevy Suburbans. But let's say now that, gentleman with his hand on his chin right there. Yeah, right there. What's your name? No, you. What's your name? Brian. Brian is Jack Welch, the chairman of General Electric. Okay? Now, Kevin, you're really good. Okay? You got $200 million that you got to move. Okay? So you call up Jack Welch's assistant, special accounts assistant. You say, I'd like to open in South America Kevin's Appliances. I'd like to buy $200 million of everything GE has because I'm going to open this appliance store and I'll pay you cash. Now, Jack Welch at GE, what do you say? Right on. Let's do this deal. Now, by the way, who owns NBC? General Electric. MSNBC, CNBC, all the NBCs. Okay? Now, let's just take a look at that for one quick second. Very quickly, a price-to-earnings ratio, P to E, market capitalization. It's very simple. If you have a company that has 10,000 shares, and each share sells for $10, did I say 1,000 shares? 1,000 shares, $10. Your market capitalization is $10,000. You multiply the share price by the number of shares. Market capitalization. You divide that by net profits. In other words, what you sell less the cost of doing business. And you come up with the ratio. This is how they value the stock market. Okay, so if you have a company that has a $300 million market capitalization and a $10 million net profit, the price to earnings is 30. The pop is 30. And that's about right. And by the way, the current Dow Jones Industrial Average is overpriced by about 2/3. Okay? Now, if you have this 30-to-1 ratio, if I add another $1 million, my pen went dry. If I add another $1 million and make that 2, what happens to this number? Becomes 60. All right? Now, the lady in red down here, who's looking away from me. Ma'am, what's your name? Karen. Karen owns an orange juice company. Makes the best orange juice in the world. And I owe all of what I'm teaching you now to Catherine Austin Fitz. And she has a wonderful website at solari.com, and we'll put those up before I leave. You make incredible orange juice. Okay? The best orange juice in the world. It's fairly priced. Karen's orange juice, right? Okay? You have $1 million net profit a year. Now, let's say this young lady down here in the glasses with the light green sweater. What's your name? That's you. What's your name? Chris. Chris is the chief executive officer of PepsiCo, which owns a small orange juice company called Tropicana. Okay? You see her company with $1 million in net profit. How much, and your price to earnings is 30-to-1. How much are you willing to pay for that? How much are you willing to pay for her company? Would you pay $29 million? Yeah, because the minute you bought her company for $29 million, your stock value goes up $30 million. How do Wall Street executives get paid? In stock. And you watch very closely the Bush administration's plan for economic recovery. It's all handouts to the corporation, which will go directly to boost their pop, which will put hundreds of millions of dollars in the pockets of executives. Has anybody noticed the Bush administration has not offered one single aid plan for any unemployed airline worker? All right, let's get down and dirty here. Oh, one more thing. Remember that guy John Deutsch that I had fun with? Okay, well...